I know you could have been anywhere else, but you have decided to join us again for another individual tell us their victory story. So, with that being said, welcome, welcome, welcome. Victory TV with Charlette is basically a platform sharing victorious stories of people who have written a book. They either entrepreneur, they're impacting the community in some capacity, and they have a story. They have a story to share, to inspire you, to encourage you, to move forward into your gifts, into your goals that you have set forth. So that's what we all about here, because everybody, again, everybody story matters. So if you know an individual who's impacting the community, they have a business or a nonprofit, or they are author and sharing words of wisdoms with other individuals, make sure you tell them about Victory TV so they can get their story here. So, the individual that I'm going to be bringing on today, you guys, you know, life happens sometimes. She has a story, you guys, and she's also helping other people get over the hump and get their story heard as well. So, I'm super excited to bring on Miss LaTanya Walker. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful, Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I know time is valuable, so you could have been anywhere else, but you decided to be here. So thank you for saying yes to us. And yeah, so let's get started. You know, we all have a story, and I know you have one for sure. We had your wonderful husband on the show, and hey, why not do a whammy, right? So
I
let's go.
know.
I think it's awesome to be in partnership. But tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are with your endeavors.
Absolutely. Well, I am from Valley, Alabama, born and raised. My story kind of goes back a long way. I started out in a corporate environment. My background is basically in human resource management, and I did corporate training and development for a little bit over 13 years. So, about 5 years before I decided to transition out, I started having a lot of physical ailments. I kept going back and forth to the doctor. They could never give me any type of real valid reason why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. And so it continued to affect me on my job, in my physical body, as well as just, with me trying to be a single mom as well. And so it actually took me about 10 years to get a diagnosis, but it's actually called fibromyalgia.
Okay.
So I continued to battle with that. And then during the last year of my career, God kind of spoke to my heart and he said that it was time to go. And I said, okay, no problem. I don't have any issues with stepping out on faith. So my first response was, okay, so just let me find another job, start pushing out my resume. And then once I'm able to make that connection, I'll gladly go. So that's not the way that it worked out. I remember getting off work on a Friday and I battled with God that entire weekend. I don't know if you've ever had that situation where you have felt such a strong calling or pulling that you could not shake it.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I got to work that Monday morning, I knew what I needed to do. But basically, I didn't have anything else to transition into. I didn't have another job. Um, there was nothing in my bank account that could support me making that type of a decision. But when I got to work that day, I sat in front of my computer for about an hour, just literally shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I had to go ahead and submit my resignation. And so I did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was very popular on my job, thank God, but I had a lot of close employees to come in and they were asking questions. So you're leaving? Why are you leaving? And then when they would ask, okay, so where are you going to? And my answer was, I don't know. And so it sounded as ridiculous then as it probably sounds now.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I had to trust God. I knew it. So I turned in my 2-week resignation. without a plan A, B, or C, and no financial means to be able to support it. But when I got off that final day, I remember getting on the highway and I was looking at the sky and the trees, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks so green. It was like everything looked brighter. And I just knew that a weight had been lifted from me and I had made the right decision.
Mhm.
And so, just kind of fast forward, I ended up starting a home based business. It's actually called Velvet J's Bakery.
Mhm.
And it allowed me to have more flexibility as a single mom. Both of my sons struggled with different types of needs. And at the time, my youngest son he really disliked just school, just from the very kindergarten age. He never really connected with that. So it gave me an opportunity to really try to work with him as well as to continue to push out the business. So it was well received within the community. But the thing about it is, when you work for yourself, if you need to take time off, there's no PTO.
Mhm.
And
Right.
basically, if you do not work, you do not get paid.
Mhm.
So the little bit of savings that I did have, needless to say, that burned out really, really quickly. And then I found myself at one point um, at a very low state. And I remember clearly having to drive my Mercedes to go apply for food stamps.
Okay.
And so
Right.
that was like a really, really pivotal moment. But the undenying thing that I could not shake away from was the fact that I knew that God had spoken to my heart and I had made the right move. But it didn't get any better. So I went through that process. I ended up having to transition and move with my mom for a period of time. And then I continued to build the business, and I had started developing many different corporate accounts, doing a lot of different events in the area. So it did get to the place where I was able to, kind of break even and at least raise my head above water.
Right.
And so I started launching out to try to open up a storefront. And on two different occasions, I actually secured the building, started the reconstruction on the inside, and then I had the inspectors to come out in the different platforms to educate me specifically on what the requirements would be. So both times they would give me a set itinerary or a set of standards that had to be brought up to code. I would get it there, and then they came in and they changed the plan.
Mhm.
And so I had to forfeit twice because of that. So I found myself really depressed, really defeated. And the thing about fibromyalgia is that it affects you, stress affects it. And
Okay.
so if you're under a high level of stress, and just to give you a more prone definition of what it is head to toe body pain
Mhm.
for no known reason, and it actually comes from you have pain signals in the brain that are overstimulated. And so, to you, if I were to just, let's say, if I touched you on your arm, and you may not necessarily feel anything, but if I'm having a flare up and you touch me, even if it was light pressure, it would feel like I was on fire. And so it was very intense. To say that it affected my confidence as a mother, as a partner in the relationships that I was in during those times, but it affected every aspect of my life. So I really had to make a decision if I was just going to exist or if I was going to live. And I was sick and tired of allowing a condition to define who I was as a woman, as a entrepreneur, or anything else that I wanted to pursue. And so it really became a battle of the minds. You know, I remember going back and forth because, like I said before, it took me about 10 years to get a diagnosis. And
Mhm.
the last leg for me was I had been to no less than about 10 to 15 doctors, and all of them were sending me back with either medication or a report that nothing was wrong. So finally, I knew that I had to become my own medical advocate. I sat down and I wrote a letter. I typed out a letter to my doctor, to my primary physician during that time. And I basically said, number one, I'm not crazy. I'm not a hypochondriac. And at the time, I was probably maybe 38, 39. And I put
Mhm.
in a letter, I'm too cute to walk around looking and feeling like I am 85 years old. That is
Right.
not acceptable. I need for you to figure out what is wrong and for you to not stop until you do. So, my next appointment, I went to the office and they ran a different type of blood panel. Then, when they got the results back, he called me back to the office and he said, well, Miss Walker, I have some bad news for you. And he said, you have an autoimmune disorder. And I immediately started crying. And he started to try to console me. I said, no, no, you don't understand. I'm I'm crying because someone has finally figured it out. Now I know what to pray for. Now I know what solutions I can try to gravitate towards because someone has finally confirmed, number one, that I'm not crazy and it's not just a sickness that I had in my mind.
Right.
And so that began a different type of journey. It has still been a struggle, but I made a decision back in 2016. I actually started a blog that's called 21 Gems. And 21 Gems is basically an inspirational blog and website to help encourage people to continue to follow their pursuits of whatever it is that they dream and to not stop, not to allow hurdles or hindrances or obstacles to prevent them from reaching their greatness. So I began to do what I could with what I had. So if there were days that I couldn't get out of bed because my body was in so much pain, I had to say, okay, well, God, well, what can I do? I can still talk. I can still encourage people. I can still type or write. I can still pour out and do poetry. So I had to figure out a way to basically continue to live and to not exist in a place of being defeated by something I didn't have any control
Hmm. Hmm. And I hear that you continue to find that
of.
place of trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? That's the
Right.
key that I heard in that last part. I got a question about the autoimmune disease. So when you
Yes.
found out and when you were crying, what thoughts was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I knew that it was step one in basically being able to find some type of treatment.
Hmm.
So from that point, I was referred over to a specialist, a rheumatoid arthritis specialist, I think it's what it's called, rheumatologist. And so I was referred there, and that was the particular doctor that actually confirmed what was going on. But from that point, it still became a situation of me being my own advocate for myself. Um, I figured out that you have to speak up. You can't always take no for an answer or just to settle into a situation where you know that your needs and concerns are not being heard. So one of the first things I did was I found a doctor, a primary physician that listened. And I would not establish a relationship with any physician that I did not feel that I had that type of rapport with. And so I actually see a wonderful man by the name of Dr. Daryl Ellis here in Phoenix City, a godly man. He not only is very wise in what he does, he cares about his patients. And so I made sure that that was one of the things that's always at the top of my list, no matter what I'm going through. I am doing my own research. I am doing the things that I'm able to do within my own power, but I'm not just sitting mute or being passive about my health.
Most definitely. And for those of you guys that's tuning in, all this is going on while raising kids as a single mother
Yeah.
and building a business. Remember, she left her job, right? And you're
Hmm.
still experiencing pain and probably just like you said, you felt defeated and depressed for a
Hmm.
while, but you still moving forward. And I think as an
Right.
entrepreneur, a lot of people see us, working our own business and think it's like, woo, which it is a great thing. However,
Hmm.
I believe that it's important to know, hey, there's a back end to this. I'm still pushing forward despite. And again, from your story, that's what I hear as well.
Hmm.
So you talked about briefly, you started your business, right? And you're
Uh-huh.
moving forward. And so how has that been on your journey? Because I know you said you had got contracts. So where are you now
Hmm.
with your business?
Right. Well, that's a very good question because sometimes life has a way of dictating your journey a little bit. And so with my sons, they're like 26 and 18 now. So there was a time period where my oldest one specifically, he was dealing with a lot of different things. And so his medical needs gave me a different drive. And so I made a decision to transition my career slightly. Because I still do the baking, I still do all of that. But it actually kind of pushed me into my career as a career coach. And so now I'm here in the state of Alabama. I provide services to over 2,000 students across the state. And it continues to give me an opportunity to still do what I love to do. One of those things is training and development. And another thing is just staying in contact with individuals to encourage them to follow their dreams and to utilize their gifts. I think that one of the things I have always said about my life in general is that if God were to take me out of here tomorrow, um, the death itself wouldn't be as a situation that I would be concerned about as much as did I do everything that I could do? Did I use my gifts to the best of my capacity in terms of being able to serve him? So with that being said, my journey as a career coach, it started to transition around that time so that once again I could provide what my sons needed from me during those times.
Most definitely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Just the outlook and your mindset again to just be able to shift and keep it moving,
Right.
keep it pushing. And I think that's really key for those who that's listening, could be in transition themselves. We all go through things, but you got to be able to pivot. Just be able to pivot.
Hmm.
What would you share with someone, an individual that's watching who may be dealing? Let's talk about the pain because I think that's a huge thing because you was able to find the answer, and within that self, that was a victory for you because that was something that you needed. So you can pray about it, like you said, like God,
Hmm.
what is this? And it took 10 years. 10 years, it
Right.
reminds me of the woman with the issue of blood.
Hmm.
It kind of reminds me of that. And so
Absolutely.
an individual that is she's probably a single mother, and she is doing her best, doing everything. But right now, she's just sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just wanting answers. So, what would you tell the individual that's watching today, that's listening? What would you tell them?
Absolutely. First and foremost, to find an outlet. For me, poetry and writing was one of the things that I poured into. Now, I wish that I could say that the attitude that I have for myself started years ago. I think I've been guilty of being the type of individual who was more people driven, and I would always consider everyone else's needs above my own. So I would probably even say that it wasn't until this year that I started to really gravitate towards self care. Um, and self care in putting me first when it's necessary, no matter what. I actually I lost my brother this year in February to complications with COVID. And so throughout the years of dealing with the fibromyalgia, dealing with the financial stresses of trying to press through a career as an entrepreneur at that time, and the doors were not opening up the way that I felt or prayed that they would. And then being a single mom, and for my sons needing the type of attention that they needed, it is taxing. And there were days I just woke up and I'm just like, okay, God, where are you? Um, I had lost hope. I lost hope. I disconnected, but I didn't know it.
Mm.
I was really just kind of going through the motions because I'm one of those types of individuals. I grew up in the church. I've always had a relationship with God. And I didn't know that there was such an emptiness on the inside of me and that I was angry. I was really angry. So it was maybe a couple of weeks after I had lost my brother, and we had such a strong relationship um, that even during the time that he was sick, I know that it is probably more right when you pray that you pray for God's will to be done, but I never would because I was afraid that his will would not be mine,
Mhm.
and that my brother would make a different type of, would have a different type of healing that was in heaven rather than on earth. So I never prayed that prayer. And then when he did pass away, it was so unexpected because myself and my entire family had held on to hope until his literal last breath. So when he was gone, it felt like um, dirt had been compounded on top of me. And so between the years of everything that I had gone through had reached this pivotal mountain, and I was just done. I was just at my breaking point. And so I remember sitting down in my bedroom. I had reached out to a very dear friend of mine who I can just be brutally transparent with, and I just erupted. And so I can't remember a lot of the details of that phone call. But when I got off the phone, I remember sitting in the middle of the floor in my bedroom, and I was praying and I was crying. And then it was just this feeling that came over me that allowed me to know that he was always there. You
Mhm.
know, he may not have shifted the direction. He may not have taken me out of the fire, but he got in there with me.
Mhm.
And it was at that point that my relationship with him began to rekindle. But it was not until I met my future husband, Reginald, that things really began to connect, because he was brutally honest in the most loving way, and just allowing me to understand what I wasn't able to see within myself. And so just helping me on that journey to reconnect and to reestablish, because it is nothing like losing hope when you don't know that you've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really just kind of going through the motions. So I say to anyone who has felt in a similar state, you have to be intentional about your joy. And so if you were to go in my closet right now, you would see post-it notes everywhere. I was getting up every day, just reading out positive affirmations. I had to speak those things into my life every day until it actually started to show up. I think I manifested my fiance, to be honest, because
All right
when I
now.
came into 2021, I'm like, okay, God, let's go. This is what I want, X, Y, and Z. And he delivered,
Y'all
he
hear that,
delivered.
lady?
Absolutely. So I just encourage you to weed out people that might be connected to you that are taking away more than they are putting in. To be protective of your space, your mental energy, your physical energy. Say yes to the things that you're able to say yes to, but learn the holiness of no,
Mm,
because we can't save the world, and especially do so without taking care of ourselves. And in terms of your kids, give them to God.
mm-hmm.
I have tried to be God in my household the majority of their lives, and I didn't even know that. And the things that I was trying to shift was never within my capacity to be able to change in the first place. So we have to show up in doing what we're able to do, and then we have to trust God with the rest of it. So
That's
with my youngest son, I used to tell him this all the time. Like, your mind is like, if you can imagine having a set of flashcards, and every time life hits you with something, you have to flip the card and you have to read out what God says about you. That you are the head and not the tail, that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So we have to be intentional in doing those things on a daily basis. Um, get your massages, get
yes.
your downtime, go to the beach, whatever it is that helps you to relax and to find a place where you can pour that energy into. Because if you don't, I am convinced that that alone will build up sicknesses in your body that don't need to be there. So you definitely need to have an outlet.
LaTanya, you have dropped some nuggets for individuals who are, ready to progress and get their victory. So I do believe
Right.
words come through people, of course, whether it's in a book format or you just speaking like you are. That's how we get our victory. So I really, really thank you for sharing your victory story with us. And let us know how we can reach you, connect with you, and all that you got going on.
Absolutely. My outlets are mostly on social media right now. I am looking forward to February of 2020. My first book of poetry will actually be coming out. So feel free to connect with me, LaTanya R. Walker, on Facebook, on Instagram. Also connect with my blog page, and it is named 21 Gems. So I definitely look forward to connecting with each of you, and hopefully see how we can just run this world together.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, that's our time, you guys. And again, I appreciate you, LaTanya, for coming on. You could have been anywhere else. I know that, but you shared with us, and I pray that the benefit of your story and everything that you went through, that it dropped on somebody's ears and be like, okay,
Yes,
make it. I can too. I know I can.
absolutely.
I know I can because you are. So, with that being said, thank you. Thank you. And I
You're
hope you guys
welcome. Thank you
know.
for having me.
Oh, you are also welcome. So we'll be back here next Sunday. We have a young lady. She's going to be talking about disability, you guys, and how she was able to transform her life and build herself up despite everything that was going on with her. So we'll be back here next Sunday. So make sure you guys tune in at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you so much and see you guys next time.
Thank you.